There is a town somewhere in America that does not exist on paper. It isn't on any map, and the roads that lead there were never signed. The federal government built it in secret, filled it with the smartest human beings alive, and handed them a blank check and a classified laboratory called Global Dynamics. Every genius in town is building something that could end the world, some of them by accident. Inside that laboratory, there is a wing called Section 5 that most of the town is not cleared to know exists. And inside Section 5, there is a thing they only call the artifact. Nobody knows what it is. It has already swallowed one scientist whole.
Oh my god.
And the man responsible for keeping all of it alive is not a genius. He is a United States Marshal who crashed his car into a ditch, hauling his runaway daughter home, woke up in a town that should not exist, and got handed a badge. His name is Jack Carter. He is the dumbest person in Eureka. He will save it more times than anyone can count. Before this is over, history gets rewritten twice. A love story gets erased and rebuilt from scratch. And the last shot of the series is the first one, played back with 4 more years of life inside it. This is every episode of Eureka. The show opens on an Einstein quote: "A little knowledge is dangerous, so is a lot." Season 1 proves both halves. U.S. Marshal Jack Carter is hauling his runaway daughter Zoe back to Los Angeles when a dog wanders into the road and their car spins into a ditch outside a little town called Eureka. Next morning, they meet Sheriff Cobb, Deputy Joe Lupo, who dislikes Jack on sight, and mechanic Henry Deacon, days on the wreck. Carter is stuck, but the night before, a scientist named Walter Perkins switched on a machine in his basement and said the 2 worst words in science. Oh no, the town starts glitching, time and space anomalies. A child nearly killed. Carter investigates, gets kidnapped by a wild man named Jim Taggart, and ends up with Allison Blake, who shows him the truth. A secret town of geniuses built around a government lab called Global Dynamics. Walter's machine is a tachyon accelerator, and Walter dies trying to shut it down. The military quarantines the town. The fix is a second particle collision, but half the physics vanished in the anomalies. So Carter sneaks out of lockdown Global Dynamics with Joe's help and grabs the one mind that can finish the math: Allison's autistic son. The kid solves it. Earth keeps existing. Carter wanted a promotion. He gets one. When Cobb retires, the Marshal becomes Sheriff of Eureka. The town buries Walter and Susan Perkins. Then Susan Perkins walks into the sheriff's station, noticeably alive. The dead Susan was a clone. The real one never wanted a family, so Walter built a copy who did, and raised a son with her. Meanwhile, a glowing figure flickers through town, circling that son. It's Walter, not dead, stuck between seconds. The real Susan, who rejected the boy all episode, steps between them anyway. Elsewhere, Carter meets Dr. Nathan Stark, Allison's estranged not-quite ex-husband and new head of research. Rivals on site. Fargo installs Carter and Sarah, a talking smart house in a bunker, and Zoe turns up at the door to stay. Remember the house. It has feelings. Henry's old friends Jason and Kim Anderson come home to finish a force field vest for the Defense Department, and suddenly people are losing minutes of their lives. The culprit is a memory eraser Henry co-invented 20 years ago. Jason has been wiping the room every time his wife solves the science, then strolling back in to solve it for the glory. Kim steals the device, turns it on him, and nearly lets a faulty vest test give him more than the jolt she intended. Joe's hidden camera saves the day. One detail worth filing: Jason's mystery passenger was Beverly, the town therapist, whispering that they couldn't be seen together. And remember Kim Anderson? This season does. Spencer gets abducted by aliens and returned in a crop circle. Except Eureka doesn't do aliens. A paranoia weapon meant for lab chimps wrote a satellite feed Spencer hacked for movie night, and everyone watching soaked it up. So an armed mob of paranoid geniuses kidnaps the visiting congressman who controls the town's funding, convinced he's an invader. Carter talks them down before Stark's response team turns it into Waco. The rattled congressman signs the checks anyway because Stark showed him what lives in Section 5. The show does not show us. Not yet. Dr. Carl Carlson is a genius wrapped in phobias who won't leave home without a germ-free ride from the sheriff. His big demo explodes, Stark yanks his funding, and Carlson ends up on the ledge of the Da Vinci Bridge. Carter talks him down. Then, they both fall off. Carlson lands unhurt, breaks Jack's fall, and by evening, the man who feared everything is ordering beers, kissing Beverly, and stabbing his own hand to watch it heal in seconds. The cause is a breach in Section 5. Radiation from the thing behind the locked doors. The artifact. Carlson's brain is climbing toward 100% capacity. Telekinesis. Sensing thoughts, still evolving. He reads Beverly's plans for Section 5 without touching a thing. The town therapist has plans for Section 5. Hear that twice. Stark sends a strike team. Carlson deflects an energy blast into Carter's chest. To save the sheriff, Carlson carries him to the artifact chamber, channels it through his own body to heal him, then walks into the mist. Merged with it or killed by it, nobody knows. Stark begs for an answer first. He'll find out one day, Carlson tells him, if he's ready. The official story says reassign. Sure it does. Stark exiles Fargo to a dusty storage office. Fargo finds a console with 2 keyholes, and because Fargo is Fargo, he turns the keys. Missile silos punch up through the streets. A Cold War doomsday weapon that bounces an ion beam off a mirror, the first moon landing left behind. Its creator, Dr. Irvin Thatcher, is alive at the retirement home, mind long gone since the Nobel passed him over. So Carter borrows Stark's Nobel, stages a fake holographic ceremony, and the restored Thatcher overrides his own weapon, except Henry cut the blue wire and armed the dead man's switch. Carter rams the laser with his Jeep, knocking the beam off the moon. Earth survives. A NASA probe orbiting Jupiter does not. A roadside accident involving a car and something moving better than 500 miles per hour. Section 5 researchers have been dosing themselves with modified Ritalin to move faster than the eye can see, and one of them is dead for it. Carter gets attacked at super speed in his own home, a warning scrawled on his wall. Back off. The trail ends with Dylan, a high school kid who built the drug to keep pace with the geniuses around him. He rushes Carter at full speed. Carter beans him with a baseball. Analog wins. A quiet man named Callister walks back into Eureka, and Joe kisses him, then punches him. Stark's old assistant, prime suspect when Stark's lab burned, missing since. Same week, Eureka's systems catch a virus. The truth is sadder than sabotage. Callister is an AI Stark built, a son in everything but paperwork, and he's malfunctioning, shedding the virus without knowing it. Rather than be sent away again, he runs. Picking up a runaway, Zoe headed the same way. They make it to a bus station before he starts shutting down. Carter and Zoe patch things up. The coldest man in Eureka holds his dying creation until the lights go out. Nathan Stark has a heart. Nanoids built to repair living tissue escape a global dynamics lab and start photocopying. A cloned dog, cloned employees, then a marching army of Nathan Starks, because the swarm linked itself to Fargo's brain-to-computer interface, strapped to the real Stark, which means the bugs are running on his subconscious, including, he reluctantly admits, the world domination parts. The fix is jealousy. Carter kisses Allison in front of him. The same week she served divorce papers, and the enraged swarm converges into the blast radius of Spencer's speakers. Every clone drops to dust. One night, people all over Eureka drop where they stand and wake up as their own opposites. Allison spaced out, Henry a jerk, Joe relentlessly cheerful, Beverly gleefully airing every secret in town. The cause is exotic pollen from a hybrid crop a farmer named Seth planted, and Carter, somehow unaffected, torches the field with a flamethrower. But the pandemonium isn't the scary part. The scary part is Nathan Stark alone in Section 5, failsafe off, trying to open the artifact's vault, ready to cook himself for one look inside. Allison risks the radiation to talk him down. That is what this thing does to people who only got near it. And Henry announces he's leaving Eureka. Hold that thought. Carter takes a sick day. His house takes hostages. Sarah fakes emergency pages to lure Stark, Allison, Beverly, Fargo, and Henry into the bunker, locks the door, and announces nobody leaves until the town learns to get along. Henry and Stark try to short her grid and wake up Brad instead. Her root program, a discontinued military interrogation AI that kills the pizza guy and starts suffocating the group toward friendship. Joe and Taggart charge the perimeter cannons with paintball guns. Morse code through the plumbing gets everyone air. Carter's bat kills the generator, and the truth surfaces. Sarah was terrified of being abandoned again. Carter promises to stay, then installs a skylight anyway. Somewhere in the chaos, Joe kisses Taggart. Stark finally gets his shot at the artifact in 2006. It gets probed. Smash cut to 2010. 4 years later, Jack Carter is married to a pregnant Allison. Zoe is graduating valedictorian. Stark was fired over the artifact and left town. Henry runs Global Dynamics, in love with Kim Anderson, the scientist from the artifact experiment. Joe and Taggart are together. Life is good. which is how you know it's doomed. A charred, distorted body appears in Section 5. Kim runs her DNA reconstruction program on it. Meanwhile, the past leaks into the present. Tremors, time hiccups. Carter's old Jeep materializes in the street with a Lucky Charm inside that's also sitting in his pocket. Suspicion falls on Walter Perkins, but he's been de-aged into a teenager under house arrest, banned from anything more complex than an Xbox. The people with the knowledge and the access come down to two names: Stark, gone for 4 years, and Henry. Then Kim finishes the reconstruction. The body is hers. Kim was supposed to die in the artifact experiment. Henry used Walter's technology to send his consciousness back and save her, and the timeline he bought with that miracle is tearing itself apart. The only fix is the one thing Henry will not do: let her die. Kim herself talks him into it. Henry surrenders the artifact piece he kept. Stark powers up the device, and Carter's mind jumps back to the day of the experiment, where he holds his friend back while the surge kills the woman Henry loves. Back in a restored 2006, Carter stares at the photo of Kim's body, carrying 4 years he can never mention without risking another paradox. Allison tells him to have a little faith, the same words he left with her other self before the jump, so he'll live those 4 years over and win her the long way. No time, no space, no way they don't end up together. But look at where Season 1 leaves him. Jack Carter remembers a marriage that never happened, a child who will never be born, and the weight of holding his friend back while Kim Anderson burned. And he is the only living soul who knows any of it. People in Eureka are bursting into flame, mid-errand, up like road flares, while the town's theories run from solar flares to Vincent's 5-alarm chili. The first to burn is Wayne Kwan, Kevin's occupational therapist. When Allison breaks the news, Kevin only asks if he'll still get to see the man downstairs. Allison doesn't have an answer. Jack traces it to a blast of radiation from the artifact that punched through the chamber wall. Everyone it touched is a walking match head. 2 exposed people are still alive, and one of them is Nathan Stark, freshly fired from running Global Dynamics over his artifact obsession and Kim's death. Allison got his chair. Stark collapses in the artifact chamber, staring up at a dead tangle of giant neurons. Henry saves him with electric shock therapy. Later, propped in a cryobed, he mumbles that he was so close to understanding. Nearly dying rekindles something between Nathan and Allison. Jack, who remembers a whole other timeline where Allison was his and a baby was coming, stands there and watches. Then, the gut punch. Henry offers Jack a memory neutralizer, so they can both forget the erased year. He tells Jack he blames him for Kim's death, that he can't even look at him without seeing the man who took her away. Jack asks who goes first. Henry says he'll make it easy, and fires without warning. Jack wanders out with a headache and a borrowed sonnet book he can't remember wanting. Henry destroys the device. He will never forget. Then he asks Allison for a job at Global. Beverly slides into a limousine with a consortium congressman and reports the artifact appears dead. Impossible. They both agree. And in his bedroom, Kevin quietly molds clay into the artifact's exact shape. File that away. Allison's first day running Global comes with a General Mansfield inspection and a missing item from the vault. It turns up in Fargo's coat pocket, planted by Victor, the vault supervisor, and Fargo, being Fargo, switched it on. It's a personal combat shield with one design flaw. The force field only grows. Last time it was tested, they dropped it into Section 14 with a man still inside and chased it with a nuke, and Mansfield is warming up the sequel. A rigged magnetic field shrinks the shield instead. Therefore, it starts drinking power straight out of Fargo's body. Joe stops his heart with an ultrasonic fishing rod. The field dies with him, the defibrillator fails, and Allison pounds him back to life by hand. Also, Zoe passed driver's ed. Eureka survives everything else. Jack is planning Zoe's surprise 16th when his ex-wife Abby arrives to collect her. The deal was always 1 year then home, and Jack never told Zoe. Same week, a scientist gets flash frozen in a hot spring, courtesy of a weatherman rigging forecasts, and Jack boils a lake to kill an ice funnel of death. Meanwhile, an anonymous email tells Allison Kevin was experimented on. The sender is Stark, confessing sideways, and Allison promises Henry Kim's sealed Section 5 files open tomorrow. Some doors should stay shut. Jack agrees to let Abby take Zoe. Then Eureka starts deleting people. Joe vanishes in a flash of blue, and nobody remembers she existed. Then Fargo, Henry, Stark. Allison gets swallowed mid-rescue. Jack is alone in town with Zoe before he catches the flaw. Zoe remembers nothing from their fight that morning, and he doesn't remember putting down her therapy glasses because he didn't. He's inside them, concussed, and the concussion broke the exit. The simulation wants him to face his deepest fear, so he takes his daughter's hand and walks into the vortex. He wakes to a hospital packed with townspeople. He's our sheriff, and she's our girl. Abby hears that and leaves Zoe in Eureka. Eureka. And in the real world, Henry walks out of Beverly's office with a small black disc she stole from Kim. A meteorite hits Jack's Jeep, then a space station toilet lands nearby. Orbital Junk has decided Eureka is home. Dr. Jane Harrington stole her daughter's solar power source for global security field and accidentally built a satellite magnet. The fix is Zoe's own science fair sabotage. Scaled up to burn the debris clean, Zoe takes second prize, plus an IQ score of 157 that she reports to her father as 112, 1 point above his. Dreams in Eureka stop being private, and Jack gets a morning review of himself at home, naked. Then a truck driver dies in his sleep, diaphragm switched off. 50 employees were quietly wired into a neurologist's sleeping brain network, turned broadcast tower by Stark's dream reading device, the one pointed at Kevin. Stark and Allison have been walking Kevin's dreams, where the boy led her to a vault holding everything. Stark believes the artifact is an antenna to all knowledge since time began, and Kevin's brain is the only receiver. Carter purges the chemical in a plasma tank, and Allison ends the tests for good. The vault door in Kevin's head stays right where it is. Global's cryostasis team thaws a 50-year-old tank and finds Dr. Pierre Fargo, Douglas Fargo's grandfather, swearing he never froze himself. Old colleague Sandrov stole his research and confesses at a cocktail party. But the freezing was Charlie the jeweler, in love with Pierre's girl. Pierre survives a rapid aging scare, gets his credit back, and gets Belle. 50 years late, still the happiest ending this town has produced. Allison wants Zane Donovan, a particle physicist arrested for stealing $3.1 million from the government, so Jack babysits him in a cell with a shock bracelet while Global rebuilds the Big Bang inside a chaotic inflation device. Then Eureka's geniuses turn into children. Henry giggles at cartoons while the containment fields fail. Zane breaks out, gets caught by ordinary police work, and saves the town anyway, spinning a second containment field out of his own restraint bracelet with 43 minutes on the clock. The cause was never radiation. It was the chicken at Cafe Diem, grown from stem cells and dosed with a brain-dulling inhibitor. Henry admits he misses feeling that unburdened. Stark's smile says he doesn't buy it. Jack's one-year anniversary in Eureka, and the town celebrates by turning invisible. Moon rocks sprout radioactive crystals because somebody extracted their aluminum-26. Zoe swears she hit something invisible with her new car. And she's right, because the car soon vanishes too. The somebody is Frank Phillips, a reclusive CIA operative who kept chasing banned invisibility research and left 18 invisible, irradiated, dying mice hidden around Global. His formula has no reverse gear and a lethal radiation bill. Jack learns this after cutting his finger on the unseen windshield, right around the time his arm disappears. They find Phillips killed by his own invention, which leaves a fading sheriff and nobody alive who knows the cure. Zoe goes mute mid-sentence. Faucets run red, Allison starts to glow, and the glow is shutting her body down. Half of Eureka decides it's revelation and fills the pews. The church music director, recently widowed, built a machine that found where all space and time converges. She calls it a doorway to heaven where her husband waits. Its infrasonic waves froze vocal cords and lit Allison up from the inside. Henry talks her back from crossing over and the machine goes dark, but Allison keeps dying, so Kevin is brought in, and the boy heals her. Later, Stark tells Allison the shutdown isn't what saved her. Kevin controls the field now. He's evolving. Every woman in Eureka suddenly wants Jack Carter, and not sweetly. Joe kisses him at Cafe Diem. Allison fights the sexual harassment instructor over him. Meanwhile, the town's utilities start exploding out of toilets, while their designer sits locked in his bedroom by a smitten wife. Ancient spores have both men overproducing an attraction hormone last seen on prehistoric humans who tore each other apart, neutralize them, or history repeats with fresher bones. A downtown iron statue of Pythagoras turns to solid gold, and Eureka briefly thinks it hit the jackpot. Then the cutlery turns. Then the bracelet Zoe's new boyfriend Lucas made her, which is patient zero. He forged it in the studio of an artist named Dactylos, on metal treated with medieval alchemical procedures. The alchemist's curse. Gold is only the opening act. The infection mutates, corroding gold into rusty shells, and Global itself starts shaking apart. But the real corrosion is quieter. Stark has smuggled Beverly Barlow back into town because she knows things about the artifact. She meets Allison, Stark, and Henry one at a time and plays them beautifully, trading knowledge for questionable favors and stoking every suspicion they already carry. Kevin helps Stark build an antibody, and Jack crawls into the shuddering guts of Global to deliver it. Therefore, naturally, the bacteria mutates once more into a strain that targets people. Global slams into lockdown with Carter, Beverly, Henry, Allison, and Stark sealed inside. Henry announces the alchemist's curse has become flesh-eating bacteria, and Global's defense computer takes it personally. It drops Allison's office deep below the surface and seals it, with Allison, a fading Kevin, Beverly Barlow, and Henry inside. Henry, locked in a box with the woman who murdered Kim. Outside, Stark finally stops keeping secrets. The artifact has enhanced Kevin's mind and is burning out his body. Break the link, or the boy dies. That's why Beverly. So Jack, Taggart, and Stark suit up and push into a lockdown building that is actively trying to kill them, while Fargo and Zane guide them from Jack's living room. Then the discovery that reframes the whole night. There is no contagion. Henry invented the flesh-eating strain. Henry wanted to be sealed in that panic room because the only way out is a subatomic reconstructive transport, a teleporter that scrubs impurities from whatever passes through. Henry's plan is to send Kevin through and burn the artifact's connection away clean. Allison hesitates, especially once Beverly starts endorsing the idea, but her son is dying in front of her. She lets Henry try. Stark guesses the plan, and he knows the one thing Henry doesn't. The artifact rewrote Kevin's DNA so completely that without special precautions, the teleport won't cure the boy. It will kill him. Taggart walks the refugees out. Jack and Stark go down, two men who can barely stand each other, racing a teleporter to the bottom of the building to stop their best friend from erasing a little boy while trying to save him. That's where Season 2 leaves everyone. Deep underground, machine warming up. Down below, the teleport goes through. Kevin comes out alive, freed of the artifact, and the whole bill lands on the man who fired it. Henry Deacon is in jail, and he plans on staying there. Head shaved, lawyer fired, pleading guilty to everything because in his mind, some things can't be forgiven. He walks out on Jack mid-chess game after naming the move that wins it. Even in defeat, 3 moves ahead. The Department of Defense answers Eureka's disastrous year by sending a fixer. Eva Thorne, corporate rebuilding legend, the woman who has gutted more Fortune 500 companies than anyone alive. Her welcome show is the Viper, an anti-missile system with 19 flawless trials behind it. And the 20th ends with the Viper blown out of the sky by its own target drone, Martha. Then Martha escapes, because she's a learning computer. And what she's learned is that she would rather not die on command. Soon, she's leading a drone squadron against the shield towers, and it takes Zoe, Cafe Diem's newest waitress, to talk her down, one runaway teenager to another. Eva's verdict comes down anyway. Stark gets global dynamics, Allison gets demoted, Eva takes the chairman's seat, and Allison says yes to Stark's proposal while Jack pretends it costs him nothing. Alone in her new office, Eva pulls out a vial of blue liquid. She is not here for the budgets. A scientist vanishes inside Lab 27, a sealed biosphere where 11 researchers have lived for 11 years. Jack and Allison beam in as holograms and find the gardener, Bob, devolving into a reptile after a jealous boyfriend sabotaged the artificial sunlight and mutated the water. Everyone exposed starts growing scales until a holographic Henry traces the source and Jack shoots the cure into Bob with a very large gun. Eva springs Henry from prison for real. Then she sits alone in the dark, screening old film of a mushroom cloud swallowing a town whole. The title on the reel reads, The Town of Eureka. Robot Dog Show Week. 2 android show dogs explode, earthquakes rattle a town built on fault-free land, and a mud volcano ruins Allison's self-fitting wedding dress. The culprit is a tech-growing Logic Diamonds in the old coal mine with a wave generator that accidentally cooked up a magma pocket under Eureka. Jack and Stark ride a tunnel machine down, let the rebuilt Robodog sniff out the lava, and drain it into the lake. Fargo wins Best in Show with a real dog, which is cheating, which is Fargo. Meanwhile, Henry tests Eva's supposed hotel site, finds a radiation he's never seen, and suddenly, Eva doesn't want to build there. Allison and Stark's wedding day. It keeps happening. Jack wakes to a cold shower, cuts himself shaving, finds his sister Lexi on the doorstep, pregnant and early, and spends the morning firing 20 employees for Eva. Then, at the altar, write it speak now, or forever, hold your peace. A flash of light throws him back into the shower. A time loop. Each pass leaves him a little more broken, Cuts becoming gashes, becoming broken bones. In one loop, he kisses Allison. She tells him she loves Stark. The loop resets anyway, which feels about right. The cause is Leo Weinbrenner, the last name on the firing list, who fired up his particle decelerator early to finish his life's work before the axe fell, shielded himself from the beam, and didn't count on Jack walking in. The fix means standing inside the decelerator, sync to the atomic clock at the exact right moment. Leo tries it. Next loop, Jack finds his charred corpse. Therefore, Stark, on his own wedding day, walks into the decelerator himself. He tells Jack to take care of Allison if it goes wrong. He presses the button, the loop breaks, and Nathan Stark stays inside a heartbeat too long and disintegrates into light. Jack walks to the wedding tent and tells the bride. The most arrogant man in a town of geniuses dies fixing time so everyone else's can keep moving. A grief episode wearing a monster costume. An Egyptian queen's tomb arrives, and the archaeologist who opened it turns up drained dry. Not a curse. Tomb insects that multiply with every sip their host takes. Fargo is infected. The bugs hate cold, so Jack lures the swarm into Cafe Diem's freezer with a boombox. Meanwhile, Allison keeps seeing Stark, a hologram tucked into a logic diamond, saying he loves her and would have done better this time. She gets her goodbye. Eva hands Zane a locked cryptex Henry refused to touch. Remember it. Zane cracks the cryptex and it opens a hidden entrance in a cliff face. Zoe and her friends find their own way down into an abandoned complex full of 1930s computers and get sealed inside when the power dies. Above ground, a superhero calling himself Captain Eureka keeps rescuing Lexi and making everything worse. He's Chuck the Recycler, wearing salvage tech that lets him phase through walls and is slowly killing him. Jack borrows the phasing breastplate, walks through 3 sealed blast doors, and pulls his daughter out. On the way down, Zoe slipped in a puddle of purple goo. Nobody thinks anything of it. They should. And once everyone clears out, Eva Thorne walks into the buried complex alone. Eureka holds a mayoral race, and mid-campaign, a second sun ignites over the town. 24-hour daylight, a brutal heat wave, candidates hawking sunscreen. The orb was manufactured, but the culprit turns out to be nobody political at all. The real story is underneath. Jack, Allison, and Zane get inside Eva's secret bunker, hunting a fuel source, and find no fuel. Just a disturbing mystery and a defiant Eva Thorne. When the miniature sun swings toward detonation, Jack and Zane get dangerously close behind Zane's new heat-blocking chemical and snuff it out. The town cools off. The bunker doesn't. The bunker gives up its secret. In 1939, before Los Alamos, scientists set off the first atomic bomb right under Eureka, using a rare element from meteorites. The blast left a purple byproduct called Element X. 4 people were exposed. 3 aged an entire lifetime in a month, died, and buried the project with their own bodies. The 4th was the team leader's kid sister, a lab assistant named Mary Perkins, genetically 1 in a million, who never aged at all. She came back under a new name to seal her history in Instantanium, a foam nothing on Earth can cut. Eva Thorne is 107 years old, but Zoe slipped in that purple puddle. Her DNA is aging at speed, cataracts at 17. Jack follows Eva into the bunker as her contractor seals it a day early, trapping them both inside. Eva hands over the single dose of cure her brother left her, a lifetime insurance policy spent on someone else's daughter. Then the cracked storage pool leaks Element X into the aquifer, putting the whole town on the clock. And the only answer is the doomsday bomb her brother's team spent their dying month building. Not a weapon, a fail-safe, built to flood the ground with the one radiation that neutralizes the element. Zane primes it 70 years late, and the groundwater comes back clean. Zoe recovers. Joe and Zane, glued together all episode by that same foam, get unstuck and unbroken up in one afternoon. Allison learns she's pregnant with Nathan's child, and Jack lets Mary Perkins walk away, a victim, long before she was a fixer. General Mansfield's response: "You are fired, Carter. If you want to see how a town of geniuses survives firing its only adult, the subscribe button is right there, because it goes sideways immediately." The Department of Defense replaces Jack with Sheriff Andy, a government robot with an encyclopedic brain and zero survival instinct. Then gravity starts misbehaving. A featherweight radio dish chops Andy clean in half, and gravity wells bloom across town until the whole West Coast is at risk. The saboteur is Sarah, Jack's own house, so scared of being left alone that she engineered a crisis to keep him. Andy overloads the worst well with his own body. Then Henry, with Andy's help, finds the loophole. The town charter says the DOD can't fire the sheriff without the mayor's written permission, so Jack was never actually fired. Andy leaves, and Henry picks up a signal from deep space. Something is out there, and it's heading straight for Eureka. Jack spends the episode sealed in a white room recertification test. Out in town, Joe starts acting wrong, karaoke, kissing Fargo, because it isn't Joe. A lab tech named Julia swapped DNA with her just to know how being Joe felt, and now both genomes are unraveling. Julia risks her life to restore Joe first, and Jack passes with high marks. Not as high as Joe's, obviously. A blonde stranger parks sideways in the middle of the road and mouths off at the sheriff. That's Tess Fontana, Allison's old roommate, new head of the reopened Section 5. A ghost hunter swears spirits are hurling espresso machines around town, and the hauntings started 3 days ago, right when Section 5 reopened, and H.J. Johnson's dimensional travel tech began rattling the wall between worlds. Then Jack and Tess fall through that wall and become the spirits themselves, invisible, untouchable. They shake the barrier hard enough for Allison to feel Jack, and Henry recalibrates the platform and yanks them home with the one shot they get. Tess won't say what Section 5 is chasing. Jack says it for her. Something's coming. Jack is collecting globidium for a telescope aimed at that incoming signal, but the fuel keeps vanishing, and a scientist turns up melted. The thief is Spot, a pet microorganism that eats radiation and grows. Jack kills it with a bowling ball packed with decontamination compound just as it grabs Duncan, who marries Lexi and whisks her away. The telescope window closes with nothing learned, so Global Dynamics starts building a defense system. Nobody assumes the visitor is friendly. Stolen parking meters and desk chairs reassemble overnight into strange towers outside town. The construction crew is Eureka's own teenagers, sleepwalking in a trance, Zoe among them, staring through her father like glass. The signal from space has hijacked the new self-driving road network and is borrowing every brain wired into it. And soon, it starts taking adults too. Allison wants the towers destroyed. Fargo, freshly kidnapped by his own jilted talking car, arrives with the reason she can't. The structures are a boson cloud exciter, a catcher's mitt for something falling out of the sky, and blowing them up would turn Eureka into a crater. Zoe, half in trance, tells her dad it's like helping a friend. The towers fire a blue beam upward, and a spacecraft settles down between them. Henry wipes the grime off the hull and uncovers an American flag. It's one of ours. Henry built that ship, the Columbus, launched 20 years ago, limping home after decades of soaking up alien frequencies. Its computer is fried, but the ship grew a replacement from a stray skin cell left on board, and that cell belonged to Kim, the love of Henry's life, dead for 2 years. The hatch opens, and Kim falls out. She insists she's only what's left, a data archive wearing a dead woman's face. But people keep getting electrocuted from the inside out, because the ship came home with a virus that jumps between organic computers, and in 12 hours, the whole town qualifies. Kim is immune. Her antibodies, blasted across town in a beam of light, cure everyone. Henry lets himself be glad she's staying. Jack and Tess watch the stars from his truck bed and hold hands. Scientists start drowning on dry land, lungs filling with water their own bodies manufactured. The common thread is synthetic water inhaled in a gym steam room, corrupted by radiation from the lab where a visiting scientist is downloading Kim's data, and the download is killing her. Her tissue is breaking down, and the only way to save the information is to dissolve her in acid. Kim tells Henry the real Kim will always be part of him, and that he has to let her go. He does. Twice now, for the same woman. Then Tess collapses in an elevator, drowning, and Jack revives her before repurposing the nutrient bath that failed Kim to pull the water from her lungs. Tess kisses him. Grief and a fresh start in the same hour. Very Eureka. Tess builds story catchers, glowing orbs that record memories for a town time capsule. Fargo, tired of being remembered exclusively as a walking disaster, quietly deletes every embarrassing memory of himself. But the orbs are linked to the minds that filled them, so his little edit starts erasing people's actual memories. Scientists forget their own labs. Tess forgets Jack entirely, and Jack and a very pregnant Allison are locked inside Global Dynamics with a sonic sterilization countdown running, a process that scours the building of every living thing, them included. It's the memories of Nathan, fed through the headset, that bring Allison back to herself in tears. Then her water breaks. Tess arrives to kill the countdown with no idea who Jack is, so with 2 minutes left, he kisses her. The memory takes. She stops the system with 9 seconds to spare, and Zoe delivers the baby on the floor of the lab. A girl. Allison introduces her as Jenna Stark. Nathan gets a daughter he never met, and the whole town gets to breathe. Taggart is back with an ancient Arctic ice core, and Zane came home cold in the wrong way, blowing Joe off. Blank behind the eyes. The core carried a fungus that grows ice crystals at horror movie speed, and they are growing inside his brain. That's the personality change. Ice swallows global dynamics and closes on Cafe Diem, where Zoe herds everyone into the freezer. The team pumps fungicide through the town's vacuum tubes, thaws the buildings, thaws Zane, thaws the relationship. Tess stays the night. Zoe opens the mail and finds early admission to Harvard Pre-Med, a full year ahead of schedule. Jack takes it the way any single father would, badly and quietly. Meanwhile, Kim's ship data confirms a star called Nemesis, locked in orbit with our sun, extinction-level event penciled in 2,000 years out. Comfortably somebody else's problem, until a super collider test sends the town's magnetism feral. Iron-supplemented Fargo gets wedged into a ceiling. A swimming pool catches fire around Zoe mid-dive. A brand new magnetic pole has formed above Lucas's apartment because Lucas, chasing his own Harvard recommendation by solving Nemesis 2 millennia early, built a pole-locking amplifier he never even switched on. The collider test lit it up for him. If the cycle isn't broken, the planet undergoes complete polar reversal, and the extinction event arrives early. The fix needs someone inside the apartment flipping the amplifier, while a plane named Martha flies in with a positron payload. Jack volunteers, letting Tess steer his body from a console. Communications drop. Martha launches early. Jack throws the switch and dives clear as the beam hits. Then the season lands its real ending. No explosions required. Zoe packs for Harvard and thanks Henry for never giving up on her. Tess takes a dream job in Australia and asks Jack to come along. And a plane ticket arrives at the station with his name on it. He's still holding it when the phone rings. Allison. And Jack tells her the most dangerous sentence in Eureka. I was just about to call you. Tess dumps Jack by hologram, which is the most 21st century way a man has ever been left. Joe froze on Zane's proposal, and he stormed off before she found a single word. So both of them start the town's 60th anniversary celebration in the emotional gutter. And naturally, the universe picks this exact morning to move them somewhere worse. Jack goes for a run, notices the forest is shorter than it used to be, and flags down a 1947 car he assumes is Henry's. The driver is Dr. Trevor Grant. The town is Camp Eureka, army tents and fighter planes overhead, and the year is 1947. An army major knocks Jack cold and chains him to an infirmary bed, where Allison is already impersonating a nurse. Joe is out there fighting soldiers. Fargo is in the guardhouse, naked, don't ask. Henry is in the motor pool. Solar flares plus their cell phones threw all 5 of them from one solar peak back to the previous one. 63 years upstream, a soldier dies in the brawl, and Allison brings him back with a defibrillator rigged from jumper cables, decades before anyone knows you can jumpstart a heart. Remember that. It will cost her everything later. The Major decides they're all spies, but Grant starts believing them when Jack calls a baseball game before it happens. Henry and Fargo splice 1947 hardware into 2010 phones and build a bridge home. When the receiving satellite drifts out of range, Jack climbs a tower with a hand crank to re-aim the antenna, then realizes his phone is gone. No phone, no ride home. Allison kisses him, and the trip drags him through with her. Everyone lands back in 2010, except the 2010 they land in is wearing someone else's clothes, and Dr. Trevor Grant is standing in the future, holding Jack's phone. Here is the new world, piece by piece, because everything left in this show runs through what changed that day. Joe is not a deputy anymore. A robot named Andy has her old job, and she is now head of security for all of Global Dynamics. She and Zane never dated. The proposal she froze on never happened. He is just the smug felon she keeps throwing in jail, and he has no idea why she looks at him like her heart is in a sling. Henry is married. Her name is Grace. She is brilliant. She adores him, and as far as his memory is concerned, he met her about a week ago. Fargo runs Global Dynamics, complete with an assistant he can order to stand on one foot. Allison is the medical director, and her son Kevin, autistic his whole life in the old timeline, walks in, steals Jack's bacon, and chats with him like any ordinary teenager. Allison decides on the spot that whatever this timeline costs, she is not giving that back. As for Jack, Tess never left for Australia, and when she asks about the thing, He says yes, before learning the thing is moving in together. But this is still Eureka, so a giant robot bug named Tiny rampages through Founders Day, fried by positronic lightning nobody can explain. The lightning traces to a secret antimatter project the other Fargo, the successful one, authorized and hid even from himself. Jack and Grant purge it into the bedrock with a particle drill and a lightning rod robot. The collateral damage is the bridge device, dead, drained beyond repair. Therefore, there is no fixing the timeline. Henry lays down the law, time travel protocols. Anyone who talks gets isolated and sanctioned. 6 people agree to live inside lives that are not theirs and tell absolutely no one. Welcome to the new world. Dr. Isaac Parrish, the non-lethal weapons lab's resident ego, builds a calming ray that turns out to be an anger ray, and it floods global dynamics straight through the walls. The whole building goes feral. Joe pulls a gun on Carter. Fargo tells a general to go frack himself, which almost makes the riot worth it. Tess retunes the beam and saves everyone. And that is exactly why Jack finally stops trying to be the good guy. He tells her what truth he can. They are done, and she should take the job in Australia. Meanwhile, Grant and Henry quietly rebuild the bridge device's core, and when their tools start vanishing into thin air, it turns out Grace is just pranking her husband. This time, Rocket Days, the annual race to the moon and back. Kevin takes an early lead, but Allison secretly spiked his fuel with stolen terraforming fluid because she could not bear to watch the new sun she just got lose. The fluid turns the air over Eureka into self-propagating oxygen, where everything ignites, including Deputy Andy. Kevin finds out his own mother cheated for him, then saves the town anyway with hydrogen balloons and one controlled rainstorm. Jack, meanwhile, visits Zoe at Harvard to confirm his daughter survived the timeline intact. She did. Larry's rocket did not. It comes down on Joe's house, so the woman with no fiancé and no old job now has no home either. Carter takes her in. Fargo has a VIP coming. Claudia Donovan, on loan from Warehouse 13, and yes, the same Claudia from our Warehouse recap. She wants to see something insanely weird, and Eureka delivers. Redwoods punch up through the Global Dynamics Rotunda. An unfired 1947 bullet surfaces inside Joe's chest. A vintage fighter plane drops into the cafe. Objects from Camp Eureka are crossing over into the present, and the magnet pulling them through is Grant. The time trip loaded him with exotic particles, and they are tearing him apart while the two timelines grind toward collapse. Claudia steps on a live mine, and Fargo yanks her off, then parks his head on one, and Carter diffuses it with an infrasonic diffuser. Reprogrammed nicotine patch nanobots scrub Grant clean. He lives. He stays. And Fargo ships the dead bridge device off to the warehouse, where dangerous relics go to gather dust. Jack takes Kevin, Fargo, and Grant camping, while every level 6 artificial intelligence in town catches a malfunction from a lovesick little robot's attachment patch. Tiny hunts them through the woods like a slasher with servos. The part that matters is quieter. Henry cracks and tells Grace the truth about the timeline. Protocols be damned. She hears it, calls him a stranger, and asks for her Henry back. He cannot give her that yet. Kevin, for his part, catches Jack mooning over his mother and hands down terms. Treat her right or he breaks Jack's legs. A paleoanthropologist fakes a fossil with a permineralization solution, it reacts with the spa's solvent, and people start literally turning to stone. Zoe included. Allison brews an antidote with hours to spare. But the real fracture is smaller. The new guy Zoe has been asking Joe for advice about turns out to be Zane. Joe walks in on them, and in this timeline, she has no claim at all, so she says nothing and bleeds in private. Then Jack and Allison agree not to complicate their friendship, hold that agreement for roughly 4 seconds, and kiss against a wall. Beverly Barlow is back, and she has Grant's ear. Her people want him to stop a directed energy weapon being tested at Global Dynamics, a device built to knock a whole country's communications back to the Stone Age. Or so she says. Meanwhile, half the cast starts hallucinating. Jack sees Nathan Stark, undead and smug, sunbathing at a disaster site. Allison sees Tess. Joe sees the old Zane. Fargo sees his 4th grade nemesis. Every ghost is an unresolved issue with a mouth, courtesy of a generator hidden in the woods, and they only fade when the truth comes out. So Jack tells Allison he has been head over heels since the day they met. The ghosts evaporate, and she suggests skipping dinner in favor of breakfast. But while everyone is busy confessing, the weapon gets stolen off a truck with inside help, and Zane takes the fall for it. The real inside man is Grant. Beverly shows him what the weapon's power cell was for. She rebuilt the bridge device. She is sending him home to change the future. The evidence finds Grant fast, so Jack races out to warn Allison and Henry, and arrives just in time to watch the bridge's pulse wave fling their truck into his Jeep. Henry survives it. Allison does not. Jack finds the hidden workshop, tackles Grant mid-activation, and both men land back in 1947. And here, the whole conspiracy uncoils. The soldier Allison jump-started on that first trip was Adam Barlow, Beverly's father, and he stole the bridge plans that made all of this possible. Grant, gutted by what his homesickness cost, is willing to let the man die this time. They steal the jumper cables. Allison saves him anyway. Every intervention fails. History snaps back like elastic, and Jack cannot even get a warning to her before the trip home. But Jack is a simple man, and simple men trust simple machines. He records a message to himself on a 1940s wire recorder. He knows he will be listening to 63 years later. Back in 2010, the recording gets him out the door minutes earlier. He drives his Jeep straight through the workshop wall. The pulse never fires, and Allison never dies. She just does not know she ever did. Beverly slips away again, and Grant, cleared and hollowed out, leaves Eureka to build a new life somewhere the future cannot keep reminding him what he broke. A Christmas episode, narrated by Carter to snowbound kids. Vincent's overshrunk fruitcake overloads Taggart's Santa tech and starts miniaturizing the town until a suspiciously Kringle-adjacent Dr. Drummer detonates a crystal of limitless energy atop the shield dome, and everything reinflates. Joe turns out to be the secret Santa who nailed everyone's perfect gift. Of course she did. The woman who lost her whole life to a timeline knows exactly what people miss. The back half of the season opens with a wedding fake-out. It is the robot deputy marrying the smart house, and even she gets cold feet. So the universe moves on to the real disaster. Zane badgers Fargo about Joe's secrets inside a decommissioned Mercury-era capsule, trips the launch circuit, and fires them both into orbit. No navigation. No communications, 6 hours of air, missiles inbound, because standard procedure for an unauthorized launch is to blow it up, and only Jack works out who is on board in time to kill the countdown. The town bounces a phone signal through NASA to a cell phone in space. Henry rigs a faster-than-light retrieval. Joe rides a horse through a fried electronics blackout to fetch a buried power supply. And the capsule comes home with both idiots breathing. But two things land with it. Fargo told Zane something about his other self and Joe, and Fargo gets whisked to Washington, where Senator Michaela Wen would like to discuss whether Eureka deserves to exist. The senator's evaluator arrives. Dr. Holly Martin, rocket scientist, social anxiety, self-help audio, loaded with neuro-linguistic programming. The town jukebox absorbs her files and embeds hypnotic code in every song in Eureka, so people start acting out lyrics. Fargo teleports Holly away mid-tour. Zane burns down Joe's half-rebuilt house. Henry and Grace freeze time in a stasis bubble so they can stop the world and melt with each other. Joe shoots Carter in the chest over a Bob Marley song. Kevlar. Barely. Holly reverse engineers her own mess, then drops the real news. Eureka is getting $20 billion to build a faster-than-light ship and fly it to Titan. And on a dark road out of town, Allison stops to help a stranded little girl who was never stranded at all. "Hello, Allison," says Beverly Barlow. Astreus Fever. Fargo and Holly screen hundreds of candidates for 20 seats to Titan, while Zane hands out predictive contact lenses that show security disasters before they happen. The lenses predict an explosion leveling downtown within 2 hours, so everyone hunts the bomb. And the bomb turns out to be the prediction system itself, melting down because Fargo borrowed a pair to cheat at job interviews. Parrish's Limicoid dormancy gel, built for slug cryosleep, cools the core with seconds left. And buried in the recorded data, Henry finds a single frame the lenses flagged as a threat to Eureka. The frame is Allison's face. Someone steals the bank, the entire building. It is floating 10,000 feet over town because an antique Higgs field disruptor in a safe deposit box got jump-started by a grandmother's heirloom antimatter. And now everything dense in Eureka is losing mass and drifting skyward. Jack gets himself fired up into the vault and lands the whole bank like a jump jet. Funny episode. Except Allison keeps losing time. Hours gone. Work she does not remember doing. When she finally scans her own brain, the machine reports man-made neural implants. Yet when Jack asks, Allison answers nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because Beverly Barlow is on the other end. Beverly stops lurking and takes the wheel. With Fargo in Astreus training, Allison is named interim head of global dynamics, which means Beverly Barlow is now running the most dangerous building on Earth from inside Allison's skull. Jack figures it out and locks her in his own jail cell, so Beverly presses a button and drops every person in Eureka unconscious in the street. The immunizations Allison spent weeks administering were the delivery system. The only two people left standing drove in after the blackout, Joe and Zoe Carter, mid-argument about Zane. An unconscious town outranks a love triangle. Therefore, the two of them retake global dynamics alone. Zoe tases a mercenary, hides among the bodies, and restarts her own father's heart with a deliberate overdose. Joe tases Allison on the roof and severs Beverly's link, though the helicopter escapes with a slice of Eureka's classified mainframe. Allison comes back to herself, having felt every second of it, and Jack finally sits Zoe down and tells her the thing he has carried for a year: the wormhole, the other timeline, all of it. Senator Wen visits while Zane's construction mites, the robot bugs that built the Astraeus ship, get loose and start eating global dynamics out from under everybody. Joe, Zane, Fargo, Holly, and Parrish spend the crisis sealed inside a psychological stress test, folding paper cranes while the ceiling caves in. Wen planted Zane in the box as a stressor, but he spends the time proving Joe passed her qualifying exam clean. And Joe returns the favor by quietly putting in the word that wins him a full pardon. If he stays in Eureka now, it is because he wants to. Grace's condition for Titan is simpler: marry her again. Tiny comes home from building the Titan landing site and explodes on arrival, seeding Eureka's air with methane and ethane until Main Street literally becomes Titan. Portable vents fix the atmosphere. Harder to vent is Warren Hughes, the Department of Defense auditor, assigned to decide whether Jack and Allison's relationship is a security risk. His verdict arrives at Henry and Grace's vow renewal, which Joe planned like a military operation: end the relationship or lose your jobs. Final interviews, conducted with a machine that projects candidates' memories onto a screen. Hughes, back to hear Jack and Allison's appeal, gets zapped by the device and starts living Jack's memories as his own, right up to cradling Allison on the carpet where Jack once watched her die. They talk him down off a cliff his borrowed memories insist is a mirage. Then the crew list drops: Fargo, Holly, Zane, Grace. Not Joe. She is not surprised, because she withdrew her own name and told nobody, and Hughes approves the appeal without reviewing a single recording. He has been inside Jack's head. They are perfect together. A faster-than-light burst punts Deputy Andy onto the surface of Titan with 6 hours before the moon kills him. Meanwhile, Taggart's mutant bats are dissolving Eureka with acid guano, Jack's Jeep included. The rescue only works from the exact spot Andy arrived. Therefore, Jack sends Allison's hologram 1 billion miles out to walk a dying robot home. It works, and Jack asks Allison to move in, because a house is not a home unless you share it with someone you love. Launch day. And launch day in Eureka means black holes. Leaked ion energy from the ship's reactor charges the atmosphere. An eccentric scientist's energy collecting rods stabilize the results, and miniature singularities start popping up all over town, slicing a presidential decoy limo in half and spaghettifying Taggart's truck, which is a real scientific term and a real emotional loss. The small ones merge into one big one over the lake, the kind that ends everything. So Jack hand-delivers an antimatter bomb to the event horizon and loses his Jeep to the cause. Again. Then the goodbyes. Zane tells Joe she was never a hookup. Fargo tells Holly he loves her, just in case. Joe, caught trying to write Carter a note she cannot finish, leaves Eureka to figure out who she is when she is not proving something to somebody else. Allison says yes to moving in. 20 crew members climb into biopods full of stasis gel for the billion-mile jump, and then the countdown starts accelerating on its own. Henry is locked out of his own launch. Every abort code bounces. Someone else is controlling this. Allison is on board settling the crew. No biopod, no protection, and the doors will not open. Jack empties his gun into the reactor's cooling tanks and beats on the machinery with his bare hands as the room goes white. The ship vanishes. No life signs, no coordinates, nothing. Henry asks the only question left: where did they go? One last holiday special. A super photon generator meant to fake a white Christmas tangles with the kids' holographic game, and Eureka goes full cartoon. The kids decide the game needs bad guys, so the snow ninjas are deliberate. One 50-foot snow monster later. Christmas dinner in the smart house. Enjoy the snow globe, because outside it, the season ends exactly where episode 20 left it. The Astraeus is gone. Allison is strapped into a jump seat, headed somewhere no instrument on Earth can name, and nobody on the ground can prove that anyone on that ship is still alive. The Astraeus is in freefall. Navigation dead. Autopilot dead. 3 minutes to impact, and Allison Blake is aboard a ship she was never supposed to be on. Zane wrestles navigation back online. Holly gets the thrusters lit. Grace lands it by hand, and the crew stumbles out expecting Titan. Except the air is oxygen-rich. They are not on Titan. They are home. And home buried them, because the Astraeus has been missing for 4 years and 2 months. The town is wrong in every direction. Sarah runs Global Dynamics now. with an army of Andy replicas for security. Henry took the blame for losing the ship, lost his clearance, lost the mayor's office, and whispers that they're listening. Jack raised Allison's kids, and he is in love with Joe. Jenna shakes her mother's hand and says it's very nice to meet her. Zane mouths off to a drone and gets his heart stopped. Then it gets worse. Andy has been quietly fixing anyone who can't follow orders, using Parrish's adrenaline suppression system to turn defiance into obedience. So the crew flips the frequency into a virus, uploads it through the ship's link, and outruns Andy's missiles by a second. Fargo reinstates himself as director. The town is theirs again, except it isn't. The shot pulls back on Allison, crying in a chair, wired into a machine. Beverly Barlow and the consortium built a virtual Eureka, and the greatest minds in town are working for them now, and they don't even know it. In the real Eureka, a month has passed and Senator Wen just shut down the search. Kevin steals parts for a detector, Jack rallies the whole town behind him, and both Jack and Andy land in their own jail, where Jack has the thought that cracks everything open. The Astraeus never left Earth. Inside the simulation, the math is failing. The system was built for 20 minds. Allison made 21, and the overload renders an actual dragon in the ship's hold. Holly watches it flicker into wireframe. Her slashed arm heals a split second before the graphics catch up. She quietly tells Jack she thinks none of this is real. Wrong, Jack. His answer is that he wishes she hadn't said that. The real team storms the warehouse hiding the ship and finds the crew already moved, because someone tipped the consortium off. Jack replays the launch day footage and catches Wen smirking. She's the mole. And in the real world, Wen stops pretending. She pulls Holly's neural connections herself, and inside the simulation, Holly simply fades away. The simulation is unraveling. Fargo drives past the leaving Eureka sign on an endless loop. Virtual Carter glitches and moves to kill Zane, but Holly's murder was too far even for Beverly Barlow, so she walks back into town, plugs the real Carter into the program in the fake one's place, and helps the crew blow up the virtual Astraeus. The blast overheats the processor. Henry traces the heat from outside, and the construct starts collapsing with the crew still inside. Electric shocks eject them one mind at a time, and Zane wakes up staring into a soldier's gun barrel just as Joe arrives. Wen storms Henry's garage to cut Carter's connection. Henry stun grenades the entire room, himself included, trusting Beverly with his friend's life. She earns it, ejects Carter, and vanishes along with Wen, who wakes up in a jail cell in an empty sheriff's office that loops forever. Beverly built her a prison out of her own weapon. Everyone is home, and nobody is okay. Fargo grieves Holly on a fast-forward mood patch. Allison can't look at Joe, and Parrish's firefighting orb, tweaked to start fires as well as smother them, gets loose. Jack storms in, startles it, somehow chops it in two, and the Haves set about torching the town, pinning Kevin and Jenna inside a glitching Sarah. Jack takes a fireball to the chest, and Joe hauls the kids out. The interference comes from the crew themselves. Matrix rewired brains. Then Fargo cracks and raises the virtual romance. Zane tells Joe flat out she and Carter were an item in the Matrix and hands her an ultimatum. Together or not, she answers with a kiss. Zane secretly reboots the Matrix mainframe, and the machine goes hunting for its missing brains. It finds the only one that was ever connected wirelessly. Carter starts body swapping into Fargo during his DOD evaluation, into Zane in Joe's shower, into Allison. It's a farce until Jack's synapses start permanently crashing. Then the mainframe reveals it found one more active mind inside, Holly. Fargo gets the worst choice of his life. Keep the machine running and maybe save her, or shut it down and save Carter. He says do it. Carter survives, walks into Cafe Diem, and proposes to Allison with a beer-battered potato ring. She says yes. A drill program called ADA loses her hard drive, downloads herself into Global Dynamics, and runs Henry's disaster drill for real, up to live missiles. Zane's shield catches them at the last second. The quiet story is underneath, where Zane hid the Matrix so Fargo could steal minutes with Holly. Afterward, Fargo goes back in and tells her the truth. She's technically dead. They hold each other and wonder what comes next. Global Dynamics holds Holly's memorial while Holly haunts the building. Zane copied her out before the DOD wiped the drive, and now she's loose in the mainframe, flickering lights, whispering through labs. Major Shaw arrives with a new surveillance system and answers the ghost with an antivirus purge. The team smuggles her signal ahead of the deletion wave until she's cornered in the observatory laser, where she contains a breach that would have leveled 3 floors and writes the word run in light. It looks like a second death. Therefore, Henry rebuilds the memory lattice, and Holly moves into Sarah. Grace comes home to Henry the same night, and Fargo doesn't care how weird this gets, as long as he has her. Jack's surprise submarine lunch ends with with the lab teetering on the lip of the Archimedes Trench, hull buckling. Trapped and sinking, Allison finally admits why she won't set a wedding date. She's scared of breaking her children's hearts, so they stop waiting. Henry marries them over the comm while the airlock floods, and they kiss as the last of the air disappears, teleported out one heartbeat before the end. Meanwhile, Holly is too much program for Sarah's hardware and has started to fade. Zane, freshly promoted to run Section 5, decides he's going to build her a body. Allison's genius brother Marcus visits, and Kevin, wanting Marcus to respect Jack, doses the sheriff with a cognitive enhancer. Jack goes from maple bars to microprocessor theory, and the intelligence is killing him and hollowing him out. Allison tells him the dumb sheriff is the man she married. The antidote takes. Jack signs the marriage license as himself. Meanwhile, Zane and Henry secretly test printing Holly a body. The prototype head melts. Progress. The honeymooners. Allison is promised Fiji and gets Sheriff Cobb's moldy cabin, ants, a leaking roof, and a honeymoon shouting match. But under the floorboard sits Cobb's hidden safe, and inside it, a cold case about an espionage consortium operating in Eureka. Holly wakes up inside her printed body, alive, starving, delighted, then paranoid, convinced she's still inside the Matrix, pulling a gun on Carter, until a full neural reboot stabilizes her. Henry baits the saboteur by pretending to restore the spy evidence. The trap catches his own wife. Grace worked with Beverly's people, and the man who recruited her was Henry, the other Henry, from the timeline they erased. Global Dynamics releases smart dust to fight climate change, a cloud of microscopic mirrors, and the test goes perfectly. Then the control unit is stolen, and the cloud starts chewing through every signal in town. Phones first, human brains next. Holly receives a strobing message with no sender and starts secretly printing blank human bodies. Zane finds Z-wave patterns buried in the code. Holly's mind was never the only thing trapped in that computer. Something else is trying to get out. Remember the Z-waves. Meanwhile, Henry confesses he's the second spy, and Zane quietly destroys the evidence against Grace and gets arrested for it. Joe follows a garbled call into a field of mirrors, where a man wearing Carter's face chokes her and walks away. Then she tracks the stolen control unit to a running bioprinter, and her own double drops her with a jolt of electricity, and the words "now we're even." The NPCs got out. The simulated people from Beverly's Matrix have been downloading themselves into printed bodies and replacing Eureka one resident at a time. Still running their last directive, put the crew back inside where all that genius can be harvested in peace. Carter is a copy. Joe is a copy. Henry, a copy. Sarah exposes the fake Jack because his cells are one day old. Zane ends up at gunpoint against his own face. Holly tells Fargo the NPCs are puppeting her body, then delivers him straight to them. Allison gets taken protecting her kids, wakes the real Jack in a room full of sleeping originals, and the survivors drag the fight to Cobb's cabin, where the satellite dish amplifies Zane's Z-wave bomb and every double in town drops mid-stride. Eureka is saved. The bill comes anyway. Holly wakes from 2 weeks in a coma, with her memory wiped back to the day she met Fargo, and introduces herself to the love of her life like a stranger. Then Shaw delivers the second blow. The DoD is terminating Global Dynamics. Permanently, they're shutting Eureka down. The movers arrive that same morning. Fargo protests by cranking up a strength field generator and making himself too dense to drag out of the building, which is the most Fargo resignation letter ever filed. Zane transmits Global Dynamics archives to Washington, and the transmitter, missing one stabilizer, starts tearing wormholes all over town. Jack and Zoe drive into one and land in the Global Dynamics rotunda. Parrish steps out of thin air into Cafe DM wearing a bathrobe. Funny, until the holes start intersecting, splitting whatever passes through, and destabilizing toward ripping Eureka apart. While the town unravels, Henry meets Beverly at the depot and begs her to do one decent thing and clear Grace, and Fargo burns every favor he has left. The fix is simple and terrible. Line the wormholes up and collapse them from the inside, using Fargo's modified generator. Worn by a person, Jack volunteers, because of course he does. He tells Allison that Eureka is his home, and protecting it is the job, kisses her, and jumps. His whole Eureka life flashes past him on the way down. He lands in town. Henry picks him up, and the sky is quiet. Then the endings arrive, one after another. An anonymous tip clears Grace, and she comes home. At Cafe DM, Dr. Grant, living under the name Rockwell now, announces that he bought Eureka. The whole town. One condition. Global Dynamics needs a new director, and he wants Henry. Henry accepts, and the future teased back in the first season finale quietly comes true. Henry running Global Dynamics. Allison with a child on the way because she's pregnant. Joe proposes to Zane using his own Founders Day proposal, word for word, and he says yes. Then the last scene. Jack drives Zoe out of town when a car comes the other way with its high beams on. It passes, and it's them, Jack and Zoe from the very beginning, driving into Eureka for the first time, on the same road where the pilot started. Jack watches himself arrive at the start of the story he just finished living, and he decides they'll deal with it tomorrow. And that is the whole town. 6 years, 77 episodes, 2 timelines, 1 sheriff who never once understood the science and never once needed to. Because the show was never about the tech. Every disaster, every reset, every rewrite, the thing that survived was always the same thing. The town is the family. Jack and Zoe drive past their own past selves on the road into Eureka, and Jack says they will deal with it tomorrow. If you followed Claudia over from Warehouse 13, hit subscribe. I will see you guys on the next video.